Publishing today can feel like a bad word, adding to the anxiety of a writer's dream to be a published author. First, publishing, traditional publishing, isn't always the right path for an author, even if you want it. The truth is, the publishing industry isn't what most writers think it is. And a lot of what writers believe about it, how it works, what it offers, and what making it looks like, is built on outdated ideas, misconceptions, if you will. And since we love breaking down misconceptions and reframing the brain, it is in this lesson we're going to strip it all down and talk about the misconceptions of the publishing industry and where it could be heading. Because the future isn't about luck or access anymore. It's about awareness, ownership, and being proactive. The problem with the industry myth is ultimately that there is a narrative we've been told and often believe ourselves, and that's the dream version of publishing. Being traditionally published is the victory. And basically, it's easy. You write an amazing book, you find an agent who loves it, signs you, and then signs you to a big publisher, and suddenly you're doing book tours, getting royalties, and living off your craft. That myth that myth maybe worked 30 years ago if you were lucky. In fact, ask R.R. Martin, whose books didn't do what he thought they would do, and he had to go into writing screenplays for television. And that was a whole other process. And that line of thinking today can lead to a trap. The reality is that most publishing evolved. Okay? That is true. The publishing industry has evolved, as most industries do. We can blame the internet for that or thank it, depending on your perspective, which is why some writers dream of the past system, thinking the new one is broken. But the old way isn't outdated, it's no longer here. It's time to meet the new one head on. Publishing today is filled with options. Options we didn't have years ago. You have traditional publishing, sure, but you also have independent, which is self-publishing, and then a hybrid of it. The difference now is that the power has shifted and continues to shift in the favor of small businesses, independent authors. The author isn't just hoping someone will give them a chance anymore. The author is, and should be, turning themselves into the product, the marketer, the business, and the brand. The old model writers still believe in. Back in the day, the traditional path was quite linear. Query an agent, land a deal, let the publisher handle the business process. That model promised four things: I will gain value as an author, there will be distribution, editorial support, thank you very much, and financial stability. For a while, it was what it was for some, but the industry changed. Midlist authors, okay, the clear backbone of publishing, if you did not know, started disappearing as corporate mergers pushed the higher profit titles. Marketing budgets shrank, which meant that unless you're a top name, okay, you're expected to promote your own book. Thus, agents now look for safe bets or projects that have the potential to become a film option. But really, the goal was to find authors with proven audiences or viral traction. And I would argue that debut authors often compete against influencers, celebrities, or established brands. Traditional publishing today operates like venture capitalism. They invest in what's already showing results, not in potential. And P.S., that's pretty much the same as with record labels, the film and television studios, etc. It's not worth the cost of R&D, research and development. Which brings us to misconception 1. Getting published means you've made it. A publishing deal isn't the end of the journey, and if you think so, then you're forgetting about the job of it all. And I'm not talking about writing a book. The moment your book hits shelves, you become responsible for its performance. Yep, not the publisher. They did their job. In fact, they've printed your book and got it on the shelf, which means if it doesn't sell, that failure isn't the publisher's, it's yours. At least that's how they'll see it, unless you're Stephen King, Margaret Atwood, Nora Jones, etc. Most traditionally published books never earn out their their advances. Same with bands and independent filmmakers. It's not a new concept, and I know that can be scary. However, if the publisher likes you as a human being, they might keep you on for the following option of your second book. But nonetheless, money wise, whoo! An author might walk away with a few $1,000 spread over multiple years. So, if being published is your definition of success, you're setting yourself up for burnout. The real metric that matters isn't getting in or signed. I'd push to say it's about staying relevant. Though you know that I define success as making a living within your field of interest. A living is not a lifestyle, a living is affording your average monthly overhead. But to add to this, your job isn't just to write the next great novel, it's to make sure readers know it exists, know you exist, more importantly, care that it and you exist, and telling other people about it. And the only way they'll do that is if they know who you are and your brand as an author. That's the part no one tells you. Publishing doesn't make you an author. Effort and plan. Effort and planning to network, market, and practice does. Before we go on we have two more misconceptions. Just a reminder, please subscribe. If you're liking what you're listening to and you're really enjoying it, but you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. More importantly, give me a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm. Misconception number 2, self-publishing is the fallback. Let's kill this one outright, please. Self-publishing isn't failure. It is not devaluing yourself as a writer. You're a business. Whether you're traditionally published or self-published, it is a business. And if you self-publish, you're not taking the easy route as much as you were traditionally published. Okay? Again, if you're self-published, you're not necessarily taking the easy route just because you weren't traditionally published, all right? You still need to build your brand, your identity, okay? Your presence. This is all thanks to social media. Thanks, social media, and print on demand. I appreciate it. These avenues have given you wide distribution and direct to reader sales that have opened the door for independent authors. Something even Brandon Sanderson is slowly turning himself into again. He is trying to get away from traditional publishing and going self-publish. So what? You're not so what? You're not traditionally published. It happens. Who cares? But you now own your rights, your royalties, your marketing, your data, the effort, the returns, the direction of your business. You get to make business decisions for the future of your book and your brand. And sure, that's more work, or at least it seems like it would be, but it's the same work you'd have to do if you were traditionally published. So what's the benefit? Well, if you're self-published, you get to keep more money on the back end. You just have to work harder to get into those stores. You got to build relationships. And some of the most successful authors right now are turning hybrid authors, using both paths to their advantage. They might publish a series traditionally for exposure, then release others independently for profit, one-offs. And now that self-publishing isn't a fallback, it's a business model for authors who understand that creative control and financial freedom often go hand in hand. Which brings us to our final misconception. Marketing is the publisher's job. It used to be, it's not anymore. Publishers amplify what you bring, but they don't create it for you at all. If you show up with no platform, no online presence, and no engagement with your readers, your book will likely disappear quietly. Modern publishing, am I right? You have to build your visibility long before publication. So start with the basics. Grow your email. I know we hear that all the time, but an email is so important. Your email list is valuable. Okay? You want to build genuine relationships online, not only with potential readers, but potential authors and other authors and the community at large. You also want to build relationships with agents and relationships with publishers and all these people You don't have to say buy my book, but you do have to build relationships with them. 3, you want to share your process, your ideas, your insights. Let them see behind the curtain to show your expertise. Not, I have a book, buy my book, but I am on chapter 3, I had to re edit it, or I'm working off an outline, blah, 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 blah. Oh, this is something I learned today from so and so, and this is some advice I think would work for you. It's all about, I know what I'm talking about. Here's the expertise, here's the proof. Let people see you, the person behind the work. That is the 4th thing. Show them your story. Like your story, not the book you're writing, but your story, who you are. Let them connect with you, with the amazing, awesome, and unique person that you are. When you bring readers to the table, publishers will notice. When you don't, they will most likely move on because you don't have an audience. So, what do you want to do in this career of yours? Self or traditional? Either way, marketing isn't optional anymore. It's part of authorship. Before we get to the right mindset perspective, as always, makearightlefthear.com. You can find everything you need to find on me, my books, and when I am speaking, if speaking at all, teaching, and all the other stuff. And remember, I have 3 books available for outlining or narrative study. This first book is not just about how to outline with the 27 plot point outline, but it is also about narrative and understanding narrative in general. So if you're pantser, it's good for that. We have the epic fantasy novel only exclusively available on my Patreon, and of course the self-help book Breaking Down Success. Boom. Okay, moving on to the right mindset. So where are we now? We're living in an era of opportunity. Big publishers are merging or shrinking. Mid-sized and small presses are multiplying. Indie and micro presses are thriving because they can move faster and take creative risks. Meanwhile, the creator economy has fused with publishing. Authors are building memberships, recommended. Courses, absolutely. Serializing fiction, exactly what I'm doing with the Maven Wars. And Patreon communities and reader-driven funding models. That is Kickstarter. Readers want connection as much as content. So if they connect to you as an author, a brand, as a person, as a human, they want to see your content, so they're going to support it however they can to get you to get their content out. Algorithms that surface niche genres is one thing, but audiobook platforms that let writers narrate their own work, everything is opening doors for readers to connect with you. And if you give them those opportunities, they will indeed connect with you. But the next decade of publishing is going to favor adaptability and ownership. We'll most likely see more creator owned IP models, authors retaining their rights and licensing them personally for film, audio, and games. We'll see more crowdfunding books through Kickstarter, GoFundMe, where readers invest before the book even launches, following the growth and adventure of the book's creation. We'll see smarter analytics that help authors connect directly with niche audiences instead of chasing mainstream exposure. And we'll see a growing wave of direct to reader ecosystems where authors selling from their own websites, newsletters, and or memberships. The most successful authors won't be the ones waiting for someone to sign them. They'll be the ones building their businesses. So where does this leave you, the working author? It means you need to stop waiting for opportunity and start building foundation. The question isn't, how do I get published? It's, how do I reach readers and build my presence among them? That means taking ownership of your career, of your audience, the platforms you're building, finances, and getting control of that. And then, of course, maintaining that creative control, both in how you present and represent your brand. Unfortunately, you're not just a writer, nor were you ever the moment you wanted to make a living as an author. On that day, you became a brand, a business, a storyteller working in an evolving market. If that sounds overwhelming, good. It means you're paying attention. But it's also empowering because for the first time in history, writers of all levels, can build careers without waiting to be chosen by a grand old phone call. Hey, we'd like to represent you. So get out there, make your stuff happen, write your books, network market practice. Boom. Next video in this series is creating a successful book launch plan, timeline, and marketing strategies. I would also like to say, just because I have pre-recorded my entire 2026 series, as I do every year, know that you can leave a message in the comments and say, hey, Thomas, can you make a video on X? Could you expand on Y? And I will do that video, and you won't have to wait a year. I'll do it as soon as I see the comment. I'll start working on that video, and I'll release it as soon as it's done in real time. Randomly. It'll just be extra videos. Also, like what you saw today, hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you don't miss out. And if you found this information helpful, a little like, comment, and share really definitely helps the algorithm. Other than that, I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and as always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time.